Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oh, yeah. Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Are you ready? Today's Wednesday, April 6th. 96 days into the new year, 268 days left. We are live from a bunker. That's right, somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. Welcome. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Excited. How you doing? How you doing? Tonight, we have two very special guests on the show tonight. George Noory of Coast to Coast AM will be here in a few short minutes. And then followed by John Greenewald, the purveyor, the head cook of the Black Vault. Now, what's great about tonight's show is that both of these two gentlemen, who I know pretty well, but they do not do often what they are about to do tonight. Both of them, as we know, are great hosts, great distributors of information. You know, that's what they do. But what they don't do often, if at all, is sit on the other side and get interviewed. And to have them both on the same show, it was a long time putting this one together. It's a special treat for everybody tonight. I'm very excited. And I'm going to throw Greenwald under the bus a few times tonight. He deserves it. And and I don't say that in jest either. And I did warn him. And the same thing for George, too, as well, because I'm excited to interview George. Nobody interviews George, you know, and I know he's done a couple of things over the years, but this is going to be different. And I will say this in advance of everything, that with both of these gentlemen, they have no idea. There has been no pre-interviews, pre-conversations, pre-emails, pre-setup, pre-anything for tonight. Okay? It's going to be one of those nights. And just kick back and enjoy yourselves. It's going to be amazing. And really quick, man, I got to tell you that we're drinking the Dennis Canadian Brew. Man, what was that movie, Strange Brew, right? That's what's going on here. That stuff will set you straight. It's like a crazy night in the Hollywood Hills in the 80s drinking this stuff, man. It's absolutely amazing. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. No more fake newsroom. That's right. I want to remind everybody, Rappaport, who has given us the street cred that we needed, is now part of the Fade to Black team. So that's going on tomorrow night. Your phone calls all night long. Follow us tonight on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Come hang out in the sandbox. I was, and don't think that I don't read your stuff, because I do. The confusion. Where's the sandbox? How do we get? The sandbox is simply hashtag F2B in Twitter. That's the sandbox. If you really want the real sandbox, just get TweetDeck and get a hashtag F2B column going. Now you've got the real sandbox with sand on the inside and the wooden edges, and you know, you can go and bury your Hot Wheels and never find them again. All right? Let's go. Let's get the show cracking. You can email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I do want to remind you that the sandbox and Twitter is live to my left for the entire show. So if you want to hang out, comments, questions, anything can happen in real time. And it really does. All right. Oh, Rita, did we get my audio is fluctuating? It shouldn't be fluctuating. Yeah, I'm kind of moving around the mic. Okay, I'll stay. I'm excited. It's that Dennis coffee. All right, I'll stay on the microphone. Sorry about that. Rita, we need 2 winners for Contact in the Desert tonight. Did we get those? Send those in, and we'll announce those a little bit later on in the show. Let's do this. Please check out our sponsor, Life Change Tea. Very simple. Go to getthetea.com over at Jimmy Church Radio. Help support the show by supporting a sponsor. Then you support yourself. You can go do that now. Also, Studio Dome and their surround, or their stereo, true wireless stereo technology package is also there. Free shipping, 60% off. It's normally $3.99. Entire package, hard shell case, $129. Go and do it now. Later on this month, I can't believe it, in 2.5 short weeks, April 29th, we will be up at the New Living Expo, San Mateo, California. Stephen Greer, he's going to be on with us next week. Nassim Haramain, Greg Braden, Scott Walter, Catherine Woodward Thomas, Mike Barra, Laura Eisenhower, Daniel Brinkley, Tricia McCannon. It's going to be great. And I will be your MC for the event. So come hang out with us. Rita's going to be there, and we're going to be there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So come on up, hang out. It's going to be great. New Living Expo. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Immediately after that, June 3rd through the 6th, Contact in the Desert in Joshua Tree. Of course, George, who will be on with us tonight. And also, this is just a coinkyding. It's kind of weird. But John Greenewald is going to be there, too, as well. Amazing list of speakers. Contact in the Desert. I think they are expecting northwards of about 4,000 people. So you do want to get your hotel and get your camping or whatever, get all of that stuff situated. And that is a really big event, too, as well. So we'll see you up there. All the other events throughout the summer are posted over at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get this show cracking. Today, Paul Rudd is 47 years old. I've become a huge Paul Rudd fan. Wet Hot American Summer, Clueless, 40-Year-Old Virgin, I Love You Man. He rocked in that. Knocked Up. Ant-Man, which I just saw over the weekend, that was pretty good. I was actually shocked. And he was really good, too, in the first Anchorman, too, as well. Paul Rudd, happy birthday, 47 years old. Black Francis of the Pixies is 51. And also today, Michael Rooker is 61. He played Yondu Udanta in Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, the red tattooed guy, right? I think he was red, or was he blue? I can't remember. Michael Rooker, happy birthday, 61 years old. He also didn't he play the stinky alien dude in that movie Reeker? Wasn't that was Michael Rooker, right? I think so. Our dead guy's birthday today is Merl Haggard, 1937 to 2016. Yes, he died today at the age of 79 on his birthday. Been doing this show for a long time. Never had that happen. Very strange. Merl was the real deal. He was the real deal. Make no mistake about it. That guy was throwing TVs out of hotel rooms before it was cool. That's all Merl. Merl was the man. He was arrested. Check this out. This is why he's the real deal. He was arrested in 1957 after he tried to rob a Bakersfield roadhouse. He was born in Bakersfield, California. He was born in a train car that they converted to a house in Bakersfield, California, by the way. He's the real deal. He was then sent to Bakersfield jail, where he tried to escape. And so they transferred him to San Quentin. He was fired from his series of prison jobs. He just didn't want to be there. Then he planned to escape along with another inmate nicknamed Rabbit. He ran a gambling ring in San Quentin. He had a distillery and a brewing racket with his cellmate. And then Rabbit, they planned an escape, and Merl didn't do it, but Rabbit did. And while Rabbit was out on the lam, he shot a police officer. And then he returned to San Quentin for execution. This inspired Haggard to turn his life around. That was it. And while in San Quentin, he earned a high school equivalency diploma and also joined the prison's country band. He was released from San Quentin on parole in 1960. Then, in 1972, California Governor Ronald Reagan expunged Haggard's criminal record, granting him a full pardon. Merl lived the real life. He was the real deal. Ran it out to 79 years, and he dies on his birthday. Happy birthday, Merl Haggard. The real deal. He was like, he started that whole outlaw country thing. And it was well-deserved. An amazing musician, influenced a couple of generations. A true legend. Happy birthday, Merl. All right, tonight we do have two very special guests, George Noory of Coast to Coast AM and John Greenewald of the Black Vaults. Tomorrow night is Fader Night, open lines all night long. Of course, we will have John Rappaport in with No More Fake Newsroom. On this day in history in 1968, a big day for us all. Are you ready? Stanley Kubrick released my favorite film, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Its debut was today in 1968. Fader fact, there is a secret swimming pool in the Mojave Desert that anyone who finds it can use. And it's in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Don't believe me? Just go to our Facebook page right now, and right there are instructions on how you can find the secret pool and go for a dip. That is a Fader fact. All right. Let's see. Winners for Contact in the Desert. Ricky Marquis. Ricky, R-I-K-K-I, Marquis. From somewhere here on planet Earth, you are going to Contact in the Desert. Congratulations. Come hang out with us. It's going to be great. Now, there are a few people out there tonight that are tuning into the show in anticipation of hearing our two guests. And we're going to have George on here in just a bit. So in advance of that, I want to share a couple of things and also set the record straight. For the first and last time, actually. And I guarantee you right now, there are people listening to this show right now that just cannot wait to go out and say something. More on that in just a bit. But about a year ago, I was driving to a local bakery here in the Valley to pick up some dessert for a little dinner party that Rita and I were having over at the house, which means it was over the weekend. And I got a phone call from a friend. while driving. And it started off normal, that normal stuff. What's up? How you doing? That kind of stuff. And then the caller got to the meat of the matter. They were calling to warn me about Coast to Coast AM, that I had to be careful, that I had to keep my eyes open, that they had direct information from a source, that Coast was an ongoing undercover front for the CIA, and that George Noory was an agent. Yeah. For real, too. And I listened, speakerphone in the car. I pulled my car into a space directly in front of the bakery and put the car in park and didn't want to hang up. So I just kind of, let it go, the conversation. And as I was listening, I think I said something like, I tried to jump in and literally went, well, like trying to think of something to say, when I got interrupted with this tirade, which was, Jimmy, stop. You don't know what you're talking about. I have direct information. This is not a joke. They are using you. They are recruiting you. They are the CIA. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And what did I do? Well, that person who called me that day is probably listening to me right now. Right? And so I'll tell you what I did, because that person doesn't know until now. What I did all alone by myself in the car was I rolled up my eyes deep into my sockets, tilted my head back, and just went, and I know exactly what I said. I said, that's impossible. Sorry. I mean, nobody is that good. Nobody is that good. Nobody is going to be able to snow me some CIA dark thing, because I know the truth. Let me explain. From the outside, I understand Coast to Coast AM is a big mystery. So is Fade to Black. And I get that. And trust me, I think that it's pretty cool. The mystery. The mystery of Coast to Coast AM, the mystery of Fade to Black. And let people say what they say. Can't control that. And I think it's cool. I really do. But for the record, and let me make this very clear, for the record, from the very first meeting that we had for both Coast to Coast and Fade to Black, from the very first day, Rita, we are in total control. There's nothing else. And I know I'm bumming some people out. But understand this. When George and Lisa and Tom and the crew, from the day that they gave me the keys to the kingdom, the keys to the studio, well, it's a pass card, a pass key, whatever, I have been totally left on my own. From the day one, I thought it was going to be different. I did. I thought they were going to book guests for me. I was going to be told, how, what, when, and where. No. And I know I'm bumming people out right now, because I know what people say. I know what the forums do. I know the blogs, the skeptics, the haters, the quote-unquote insiders try to say about Coast and about Fade to Black. People that say that they're on the inside of Fade to Black. The people that are on the inside of Coast to Coast. And I'm here to tell you that they write stuff. And I honestly quit reading or caring about all of it a long time ago. Right after when I read or heard probably one thing that was so far off base from reality that I just stopped. I just stopped. Because this whole coast to coast, fade to black, Noory, church, Rita thing is imaginary. It is. But it's kind of cool. The mystery. I get that. And because we don't talk about it and we don't do that stuff. We don't participate. We don't go out and write or respond or do anything. People write and make stuff up on their own because we don't give them the fuel to write stuff off of. Seriously, there are probably 15 or 20 people on the planet who know the truth about Coast and Fade to Black. 20. Everybody else, they don't know nothing. Nada. Zip. Nothing. So anything that you read out there is BS. Because we don't talk to people. Nobody does. Nobody does. Not a code. No. And you know why? You know why there's this secrecy? This mystery? I'll tell you right now. I'll bust the lid out on it right now for everybody. Because there is no secret. There's nothing to talk about. Everybody loves a conspiracy. Nobody more than me. But with Coast, Fade to Black, Noory, Danheiser, Rita, me, the planet, I got nothing. I don't, because there's nothing there. So to prepare everybody out there for George and our conversation tonight, that's about to kick off in a few minutes, those listening that I'll be posting something later. They'll be posting something later, maybe during the show in real time. Listen to me carefully. Listen really close. And I know that I'm about to break a few hearts. And I may make some people out to be liars. But nobody has ever told me who to book as a guest, what to say, when to say it. On Fade to Black, on Coast to Coast, anywhere in life, Rita and I run our own show. There are no secret meetings in dark places. There's no secret agents. Nothing. And honestly, I would love it if there was. It would be great. Honestly, I expected it after all the years of reading stuff on the web and conversations and rumors floating around. But honestly, there's nothing. All you have here with Coast and Fade to Black is a bunch of hardworking people who do their best to kick some ass every single day and bring the best shows that they can 7 days a week. Just like Fade to Black, which is, of course, a front for the CIA. I can't speak for Coast to Coast, but we're a complete front for the CIA. Or I think it might be the FBI. But you know what? You'll never know. And that's the truth. It's the truth. I don't want to bum anybody out. And I know that I just did. George and I are going to touch upon this briefly tonight, just to set the record straight. He doesn't know it yet, but it's coming. And, you know, speaking of the FBI and the CIA and what you do and don't know, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. Have you ever heard of the University of Northern New Jersey, UNNJ? Well, you haven't. Or at least I hope you haven't. The school's website appeared to be real, with details on tuition costs of about $12,620 per semester, and its 7 undergraduate and 9 graduate degree programs on the web looked all good. It even had a Facebook page with posts about spring break operating hours and plans to expand from its Cranford location into Harrison, Hoboken, and Morristown. But the college was a fake. It never held any classes, and it didn't have any professors. Federal agents had set it up to uncover visa fraud. 21 people were arrested today for allegedly conspiring with 1,000 foreigners to fraudulently maintain student visas and obtain worker visas. Today, the college website, its Facebook page, all were taken down this afternoon. Those arrested were brokers who solicited the university's administrators, who were actually undercover agents. The brokers recruited foreign students to enroll and allegedly created false student manuscripts, transcripts, and diplomas so they could fool immigration authorities and keep their student visas. Most were from China and India, and that it's neither here nor there, from all over the place. In some instances, the brokers are also accused of creating false employment contracts between the school and the foreign nationals so that they could fraudulently obtain worker visas. They paid the undercover agents thousands of dollars to put the school's letterhead on phony documents. Which brings me to the Black Vault, another great portal on the web that has been accused of the very same CIA connections. Now, I know John Greenwald, and I think he's way too busy with his family, his new son, his 2 or 3 jobs that he has, to go and hold down another job with a 3-letter agency. Or is he that good? Tonight, we're going to find out. I've been waiting for this night for a long time. We're going to do it tonight. Our guest tonight, George Noory, Coast to Coast AM, and John Greenwald of the Black Vault. I want everybody to get comfortable. Pull up your blankie. Get that drink of choice. Fire up a heater, because this is truly what late night, overnight talk radio is all about. Tonight, I bring you 2 of the very best. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke radio for the masses. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. After this short break, I'll be right back with George Noory. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Yeah. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Let's do this. George Noory is the host of Coast to Coast AM, which airs on approximately 564 stations in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and Guam. While hosting his show, The Nighthawk, a late-night program on KTRS in St. Louis, George was recruited by Premier Radio Networks to guest host on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. He became the permanent host on January 1st, 2003. At the age of 28, he became the youngest major market news director in the country at KMSP-TV in Minneapolis, and while as a news executive, was the recipient of 3 Emmy Awards. George hosts, as we know, Beyond Belief, a weekly internet-based TV show, and has also appeared on History Channel's Ancient Aliens. And he was born, raised, educated in Detroit, graduated from the University of Detroit in 1972 with a bachelor's degree in communications. I'd like to welcome to the program George Noory. George, good evening, sir.
Jimmy, my friend, my colleague, how are you?
Oh, stop. I'm excited. And
all right, let me take my friend part away.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, and let's start off with this, George, because as you know, there's a couple of things that are in play here. Number one, I work for you on the weekends, right? Got my little part-time gig.
You do a great job for us.
Well, but technically you're my boss. But tonight I'm not going to tiptoe around. That's the first thing.
Let it fly, Church. Let it fly.
And the second thing is, you and I have been talking about doing this for a couple of years now. And so thank you for coming on. Third thing is, I want the audience to know that we have not communicated at all about this show tonight, and it was merely as simple as, I know they're thinking there's some big mystery behind this, right? It was simply a text and a phone call to you. George, are you available on Wednesday? I sure am. What time? 7:30. Okay, let's do this. Let me know a half hour before the show. Let's go. Right? That's it.
Well, should we tell them about the major or not? Now, let's wait. Let's do that in another month.
You know, exactly. And one of the things, okay, George, so let's do this. Part of the great thing about your position at Coast is that you're uber busy, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. But also, because of that busyness, you don't get out there as much as you would like to, or as much as your audience maybe deserves. You're just too busy for it. And because you don't communicate out there to the masses, people write their own stories. They make up their own stuff, and they have fun with it, good or bad. But to them, it's fun, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And so, with all of that tonight, let's explore a couple of things there, and for the first time, put some stuff to bed, and let's let it hang out. You ready?
I'm going to let you do the dance. Just don't step on my toes.
Well, I got a gig this weekend. I still want to show up for work, so let's. I won't be that.
That's right. I'm in Cincinnati. I think you're doing Friday for me while I go to the Victory of Light event.
That's right.
And by the way, I do get out a lot. Not as much as I'd like, but it's pretty extensive.
Well, no, what I do mean, okay, we'll start right there, George. That's a good place to start. One of the things that you had said to me very early on in one of our first meetings at Coast, you scared the crap out of me. And you said, Jimmy, I haven't had a vacation in 13 years.
That's right.
And I was like, what? This isn't all fun and games? That's what's going through my innocent mind, right? And you said, Jimmy, my foot has been on the gas every single day. I work all day long. I do this 5 days a week, plus the first Sunday of every month. And that's what this gig is. It is dedication. And you scared the crap out of me. Most people don't understand that part of the gig, that your dedication to it, has been no time off. Occasionally, yes, of course, you have to, but no time off, no breaks, no nothing, 13 straight years of sweat.
And holidays.
Right. And I most people can't wrap their mind around that. Just imagine if you had a job that you worked at and you didn't take a vacation or take any time off for 13 years. They'd think you were crazy. And I thought you were crazy when you said that to me, by the way.
I just might be, Jimmy.
So, and that's what I mean. There's only so many hours in the day. And so because you're not out there, you're working, you're not out there responding or writing or talking to people 24 hours a day. You've got a job to do that. People write their own story. And one of the rumors is that Coast to Coast is a front operation. It's a CIA thing. It's Project Mockingbird, and George is a front. He's a CIA agent. I was told this. How do you respond to something like that?
Jimmy, if I tell you, I'll have to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. See,
this is what's been going on together. I spent 9 years in the Navy. As soon as I started doing Coast to Coast, I started getting emails from people who said, you were an intelligence officer, you were doing black ops, you're a front for the CIA, you're a front for the government. This was even before I really got my teeth and sank my teeth into the program, Jimmy. And I would respond back to them and say, no, come on. I spent 9 years as a public information officer in the Navy. I never saw any warfare or duties. My unit got called up to Desert Storm in 1991. I had just retired a month before that. And they were assigned with General Schwarzkopf in Saudi Arabia, but they did all his public relations. So, I'm not a war hero. I don't embellish my military service. I don't tell people that I saved 18 guys from some bomb in Afghanistan. I shoot straight. But when I started doing Coast to Coast, that was the rumor that, because I served in the Navy, I was an intelligence officer, and I, worked with the CIA. I don't know anybody with the CIA. I've never been approached by anybody from the CIA. I have no idea who to approach at the CIA.
I don't know if you heard my little rant at the beginning of the show, but and I've never told you about this, but about a year ago, I got one of those phone calls, just like you did, right? And Jimmy, you don't understand. They are using you. It's a CIA. I was like, stop, because what they don't know is that they're speaking to somebody that does know, right? But I'm listening to this, and they are that good, Jimmy. You don't even know that you're a tool. They're telling you what to say. They're telling you what to do. They're telling you what guests to book. They're telling you and I was thinking, that is the craze. They have no idea, and that's part of the mystery of Coast to Coast, I guess. Why is it that everybody wants to go there? Is it because they love a great conspiracy, or is it just because you guys don't talk about it, or there's nothing to tell?
It's exciting to talk about it. If you're on the outside, if you don't know exactly what's going on the inside of an operation, you start saying that. I think all you got to do is listen to 1 week of programs, Jimmy, on Coast to Coast, and you realize that we are watchdogs over the government. We are watchdogs over these organizations that are trying to manipulate people. We're opposed to the Federal Reserve. We are opposed to Big Pharma. We hard hit those. We talk about UFOs and Bigfoot, of course, and ghosts, and we have fun doing that. But by and large, we've changed the program and have evolved it to really doing programs that affect people. And a lot of people love that now. But in the beginning, as we started to change the show, a lot of people were very suspect of the program. And then I think that it probably even followed through to art. I think a lot of people probably thought art was part of the government and did all these things, and we just had to keep plowing away and doing what we're doing. Those concerns from people are slowing down tremendously as we do more and more programs of, conspiracies and, taking care of people. People are beginning to realize, hey, these people are on our side, and it's growing. It's working.
There are people listening to the show right now that are probably on a forum somewhere posting in real time, right? This conversation.
I bet they are.
They are. So let's set the record straight, shall we, on a couple of points.
Sure.
Have you ever told me or another host what to say or who to book as a guest?
Never.
I
will send you an occasional note on a weekend when you're working on items to promote, like Coast Insiders or Paranormal Date or Beyond Belief. But we have never told you to book somebody or not to book somebody. Obviously, if you went way overboard and wanted to book somebody who was just totally opposite the direction of the show, we'd say, Jimmy, this is not the show. But we picked you, Jimmy, and the people who do the shows with us because of the views and philosophies that you hold. We don't have to worry about that. I don't have to. When I talk to Lisa, our executive producer, about Jimmy Church and Jimmy's performance and Jimmy's guests, we know that it's very in line with the programs we do. So we don't have to babysit you. We don't have to watch you, or we never would have picked you.
Well, you're breaking some hearts right now. Because they think that there's some conspiracy there.
No, we're gonna this hour. We're gonna just lay it on the line. We're gonna tell it the way it is, and they can take it or leave it. They can believe it or not. But what we're talking is God's truth.
One of the things, because I just like everybody else, read and heard the rumors about Coast to Coast and how it was. And so I remember leading up to my first show, and I'm talking to Lisa and to you, and I said, so who's my first guest? I don't know. Who are you going to book? Right? And it was that way ever since, and I don't think that people really understand that what Coast is about. And we're going to move on because this is about you, but I just want to set the record straight. Coast is just about a bunch of people that work really hard. Just Fade to Black is no different, to bring the best guests that we can, and we're not influenced by anybody, and I certainly am not. And everything that I read, it confounds me. But then, in a weird way, I kind of enjoy it because they just love a good mystery, and you're not going to change people's minds.
And, Jimmy, let me tell you something. If they're not talking about you, you're not doing things to keep people interested or to react. Whether it's good or bad, if they talk about you, they're listening to you. They know what you're doing. And, I've taken the position, because I've changed. I mean, in the beginning, I was very sensitive of chat rooms and things that they said, or somebody would send a hateful email and I'd fire right back at them. I don't do that anymore. I mean, it just blows right off me. It's just like water flowing right away, and that's just what I've evolved into.
Let's go back to 2001 and 2003. That period there. It was obviously rough in 2003. 2001, you're the Sunday night guy, no harm, no foul, right?
Right.
And so was your mindset at that point between 2001 and 2003, okay, I got this, the audience is enjoying what's going on, everything's cool, and then boom, 2003 happens, which is nobody expected it, and you get the keys to the car. And that was a rough period. I was part of that too, because I was an art fan like the rest of the country was. How did you deal with that day in and day out? Because it was unrelenting. And how long did that go for?
It hasn't stopped from some of the diehard fans. You're listening to two different people, two different techniques. We've built the audience, and Jimmy, what has happened in the 13 years I've been doing Coast to Coast is the entire genre of radio has changed. We are no longer listen on your car or just listen to the radio to your home. Now it's podcasting, it's digital, it's streaming. People are using smartphones. We have evolved with that, and we had to take a radio show that was not progressive in terms of technology and bring it along into an era that people would accept that and grow with it. In terms of affiliates, we had 445 when I came on in 2003. We are at 615 now, if you include North America, Canada. And we had to look at every aspect of the show. Program directors were getting very uneasy with pure paranormal shows. The world was changing after 9/11. They wanted more guts, and we had to deliver for that. And one of the reasons why the network brought me in was because of my solid news background. What a lot of people who have been original Coast to Coast fans, and God love them and great for them, and most of them have stayed with us. But what some of them didn't understand was that the program had to evolve into the world it is today. Because if it didn't, the show would not have survived. The show, quite frankly, would not have been on as many affiliates as it is today. And so what I had to do, by the nature of being on the air on holidays and not taking vacations, I had to look at a lot of things underneath the water. Coast to Coast was an iceberg. Everybody who listened to the show saw the tip of it above the water. Nobody saw what was going on under the water, and that was my job. My job was to also make sure, in addition to the performance of the program on the air, was to make sure that this iceberg kept floating in the water. And underneath it was affiliate relations, marketing, sales. What a lot of people don't understand is Coast to Coast is given to stations for free. We sell commercial time. That's how the program lives. That's how it exists. Without advertising revenue, there is no program. So I had to deal with all these other areas that some of the other hosts really never concerned themselves with. They just did their show, did it well, got paid for it, and they moved on. I had to change that. I had to look at it as an entertainment venue, as an informational venue, as a business venue, and I had to address every certain area. And people don't understand that. All they see is what they hear on the air, and in many cases, that's all they need to know. But underneath that, I had to just do all these other things to keep that show going.
How did you deal with the pressure like that in 2003 and moving forward? Because you have you have the critics, you have arts fans out there, critics that don't have to be arts fans, they're just critics. So you have that. And then you have the machine, the Titanic, and the iceberg that is coast to coast. How did you deal with that kind of pressure?
Well, believe it or not, it was the kind of pressure that I thrive on. I mean, I had the experience of running businesses, of trying to patch up failing businesses, of building my own career. Every aspect of Coast to Coast I've had to literally do in my lifetime in different aspects. And I picked myself up, and I've done some things. I went through, back in 2000, before the show, a very serious health issue, which turned me into a health fanatic, and I don't talk too much about that. But it put me through an era of, you know what, no matter what happens, taking care of your life and your loved ones and the people you care about are the most important things. And I applied all of that. My news director's background, yes, I did win 3 Emmy Awards. They were regional Emmys, but they're the little babies of what you see once a year on network television, the Emmys, the same thing, but just a smaller version. And, I put all that together. I packaged myself, and then off we went to build Coast to Coast where it is today. And I'm very proud of the program. I'm very proud of the staff. I'm very proud of the hosts that we have, including you, Mr. Church, and George Knapp, and Richard Serrett, and Connie Willis, and Lisa Garr, and Dave Schrader, and everybody who helps build this program, because it's a team effort. And it continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger in the face of extreme competition from all over the place. It has stayed strong, it has stayed number one, and it's going to continue to grow.
Let's go back, George. Your family history is something that there's some general stuff out there, and I've certainly never talked to you about it. But it is also something that people are probably extremely curious about, because there's not a whole lot to know. So I want to take the opportunity right now to discuss that. Your mom gave you a book when you were 13 years old. We're going to discuss what the book was and why in just a second. But were your parents open to the family life? Was it a paranormal family? Because the book is a unique one for a 13-year-old to get from their mom.
It was a spiritual family. My father was not interested in this stuff at all. He worked at Ford Motor Company all his life as a financial analyst. He was born in Cairo, Egypt. We're Middle Eastern Christian. He came to this country when he was 6 years old, just a little guy, and he had a twin brother, fraternal twins, and he too had this incredible work ethic. That's where I got mine. I can't stop working because he kept pushing me, and it was just ingrained in me. But my mother, who's still alive, God willing, she keeps going. She's going to be 87 in another month. She enjoyed the paranormal, but she didn't talk about it in terms of paranormal. She never even used that word, but she was a believer in ghosts. She was a believer in extraterrestrial life. And she brought me that book you just mentioned, We Are Not Alone, that was written by Walter Sullivan, who was then the New York Times science writer. And it talked about the possibility of life out there. And I was obsessed with it. I read that. I couldn't get enough. I read books by Edgar Cayce. I went out and got a telescope so I could look at UFOs if I could see any out there. I built rockets. I mean, everything I did at that young age was geared to who are we? What are we? Why did we come here? Are there others out there? And I was just absolutely enthralled with that. And I never stopped. I went into broadcasting. I was going to be a dentist. That's what my dad wanted me to do, but I always loved broadcasting. I switched my major in my second year of college unbeknownst to him. He got upset, didn't talk to me for 2 months. But I switched my major because I wanted to unravel these stories. That's why I went into broadcasting. But, news directors at that time would not hear of that. It was not until I started running my own news shops that I started pushing everybody in that direction in addition to news. And, we were number one in almost every market I was in. As a news director. And then when I was able to develop it as a radio show, lo and behold, there was Coast to Coast, and I did many shows like that in St. Louis, and that's what caught the eye of the network. And
let me ask you this: as a news director and working for TV stations, did you ever discuss your interest into the paranormal and ufology or did you just keep that stuff in the closet?
My nickname in television, Jimmy, was Captain Bizarre. People who didn't understand this just saw me as a guy who was bizarre into these very strange stories. So, whether there were, lights in the sky or people reporting things in Michigan, and I sent a crew out to cover that or covered them myself during my early radio days, Stanton Friedman being my first radio interview when I was 21 years old in Detroit. Those are the things I went after. But in terms of the world knowing who I was, doing all that, or within the station, all they thought was, God, this guy's bizarre. And that was my nickname, Captain Bizarre.
Well, were you able to do that because you were the news director? Because when I was in school for broadcasting, and I was sitting there talking to somebody that worked for CNN, one of the teachers, right? And I literally said, hey, what do you guys do if you get a UFO story? I swear, the room went silent, right? And she looked at me. She goes, we don't do that stuff. And I was like, well, but what would you do if I brought you a UFO story? No, we really don't do that kind of stuff. And it was crazy how I got shut down. I thought it was going to be the opposite. Yeah, it would be great. We would love to cover that stuff. We don't get whatever. But no, that wasn't the answer. Were you able to do that because you were the news director?
Yes, I had to be the boss of the show in order to pull that off or to assign people to cover those kinds of stories. I remember back in Detroit, we had somebody who claimed that they filmed a UFO. And we had the film. He would not let anybody view it. We really took a chance because we played the film live with him in the studio and our anchor man. And these are the days we had 16-millimeter film, not video. Right. And, I mean, God, it could have been anything on that film. And we played it live. And there were some weird things going on up in the sky. We don't know what they were, but it was one of the highest rated weeks we ever had in our local newscast. I always knew that people loved this, and to turn it into radio and to keep going with what was already established was just a godsend.
We're going to lead into a break here. Let's go ahead and do that now. And when we come back, I want to discuss the origins of Nighthawk and how that came about. And
sure.
Then we'll take things from there. Our guest tonight, George Noory. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with George right after this. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
Hey folks, Life Change Tea here, reminding you that colds and flus suck. Feeling lousy sucks, and allergies really can be annoying. What if you could change that? What if you could drink something that changed the sick and tired scenario? Well, you can change how you feel with a little help from Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a drink you make, you control, and you drink. There are 8 organic herbs that blend together and give you what you need to fight the flus and colds of this world. Less sickness is more relief. Life Change Tea can help with high blood pressure, constipation, high cholesterol, and much, much more just by drinking the tea. Read the numerous testimonies at getthetea.com. If you're tired of feeling lousy, order right now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. If you've heard this commercial more than once and someone's trying to tell you something, it's time to get well. GetTheTea.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Our guest tonight, first up, George Noory. Hey, George, the idea for Nighthawk, as it came into play, there's a couple of things that you now had to do as a host of a show like that when you're dealing with the paranormal and ufology and ghost and afterlife and all of those subjects. You have the challenge of going in out of the gate of trying to get to the truth, but also, you need to entertain too as well. And you have to develop a fine balance there. How did you, because now you're in uncharted territory, how did you start to deal with that?
Yeah, I was lucky, Jimmy, in my career to be a producer. Besides being a news manager or talk show host, I was a producer, and I produced with a great team some award-winning television newscasts and shows. So I understood how to build an audience by putting together a pretty interesting show that paced out well and had interesting things going on. So one day, trying to get back into the business, I had a production company that I had sold. We would produce the television games for the Cardinals in the Midwest, and we did some industrials and video programs really way before they were video programs in those days. But I wanted to get back into the media, and I was 46 years old at the time, and I'm saying, boy, this is going to be tough. And I was at home watching a movie, talk radio with Eric Bogosian, and I believe it was an Oliver Stone film. And I loved it. I loved the setting, the cast. It was based on a real talk show host by the name of Alan Berg, who was shot to death by some neo-Nazis after one of his shows. And I was just fascinated by talk radio that way. And I'd always listened to it, never really thought that I would be doing it. And I decided that with my background in the media, which was extensive, primarily as a newscaster, reporter, manager, that I wanted to create this talk show person. And I came up with the idea of the Nighthawk and started filling in on a major radio station in St. Louis, just doing fill-in talk radio. And then another station that was our affiliate at the time, KTRS in St. Louis, heard me and said, hey, we're dumping a show. Would you like to be the late-night talk show host? And they made me an offer that was not substantial by any means, but it got me back into the media as a talk show host, and I came in, and I was on overnights, and the show I replaced was called Coast to Coast.
Really?
They had dumped that show for me, and it was funny because, I had haters calling saying, you fired Coast to Coast, you fired Art Bell, and I said, no, I didn't. I just simply came in and took this position that was offered to me. But it was a talk show that I did late night in St. Louis, no calls. Nobody would call. And one day I pulled out the old song by Peter, Paul, and Mary, Where Have All the Flowers Gone?
Right.
And every time they went, where have all the, right before they got the flowers, I faded it down and yelled, talk, phone calls. And it would go, long time passing, where have all the phone calls gone, long time ago. I kept doing that for like 10 minutes. Finally, one guy called the show and he said, what will it do to get you to stop playing that song? On the air, he's saying that. And I said, don't hang up. Right. And he said, okay. And so after that, a second call came in. Then a third call came in. And as I'm watching this, I'm looking at the lines coming up, and they're starting to light up, just like they did for Eric Bogosian in talk radio.
Right.
That the more controversial you got, or the more fascinating you got, the more calls you got. And I looked at that, and then I said, you know what? This is going to work. And the Nighthawk really took off in St. Louis. We were very strong in the ratings. We were number one. And at that time, I started filling in for Coast to Coast. Alan Corbett had heard about me through Mike Siegel, who was doing the show after Art left.
Right.
And Mike had done some work for us on KTRS out of Seattle via ISDN broadcast lines, and we got to know each other. And so he's doing Coast to Coast full time, and I called him up and said, look, if you ever need a backup guy, here I am. And I sent Alan Corbett a tape, and he loved it, and I started filling in. And that's how that evolution occurred. Well, Siegel left when Art came back, and they were down to like 330 affiliates, and Art cut a deal with the network, came back again, and Corbett turned to me and said, I want you as my backup guy. I was the Jimmy Church of Coast to Coast.
Right.
Where they called on me whenever they needed to, and I did more shows, and I loved it, Jimmy. I loved it. But keep in mind, we didn't have Coast to Coast on the air. And I would do my own local show, and then I would fill in and do Coast to Coast. And then one day the network got a call from a station in St. Louis that had picked up Coast to Coast and had said, why are you hiring this guy to do the show? He ends up being on our air when when he's on, because by that time I was doing 9 o'clock to midnight, and Coast to Coast runs at midnight in the Central Time. And so they took me off. They wouldn't let me do the show anymore because I was on a competing station. And I was really upset. I was distraught, as a matter of fact. And then one day our manager came in and said, I got good news for you. And I said, what? And he said, I got Coast to Coast back so you can fill in again. And that's what did it. That just set the whole tune for everything. And the tone of what I did just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where in September of 2002, the network flew into St. Louis, the folks there, and they said, we want you to do this full time. Art's quitting. He's retiring. And hey, who wouldn't say okay? I was the lead backup person. I was the person they turned to, and then we talked about some of the things that really needed to be fixed to save the show.
Well,
because,
at that point, let me jump in actually, and I don't want to run out of time. How do you, especially back then, how do you determine who is going to be a good guest, who is going to be a great guest, and who is not ever going to be a guest?
I didn't know. They had history. I brought some guests in with me, people I had used in St. Louis in the Nighthawk era. But by and large, we used the Hoaglunds and the Michiokakus and the Evelyn Paglinis and many of the original Coast to Coast guests. They recycled them with me. It was a comfort factor for them. And, and the show continued to evolve. And then we brought in some newer guests along the line that had never been tried before. And they're still on the show now. We've kept many of them. But in the beginning, Jimmy, we didn't know. We had to rely on the producers of Coast to Coast who are still with me. And they brought in a lot of the old guests while trying to find new ones, and as I was finding new ones, to keep the flavor fresh.
What do you do? What do you do when you're having a hard time in the believability factor? And you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, absolutely. It's called the eye-rolling factor. Thank God we're not on television, right, where people could see this. I look at the program as several-fold. One is information. The health shows, I want to help people. I want to save a life every time I'm on the air. I really want to do that. But what we do with people who are so far-fetched, I mean, I'm not going to use names here, but do I actually believe that a guy, when he was a kid, was beamed to Mars and was there on a secret mission, and then they beamed him back? No. Is it conceivable? Well, maybe 100 years from now. But I don't think we have that kind of technology tonight. But I do the show, and I don't knock the person. Very rarely do you hear me, chastise somebody for their beliefs or what they do. And I realize that the program is also entertainment. I mean, I remember one of my first shows that I was doing full time. They tossed a woman on me by the name of Pamela Stonebrook, and Pamela claims that she was having relations with a reptilian. And, I did a 3-hour interview with her on that. Did I believe it? No, probably not. But I gave her the respect, and I kept the interview flowing, and we had some fun with it. With
other, again, we don't have to name names. Some of these shows are very, very famous, and most people know what we're talking about. There have been a few instances, not only with you, but with the old host, with Art, on Coast to Coast, that were pretty phenomenal events, right? And you both have had them. And then you have the people that call fraud, and they think that you are fabricating, you're making this up, and this was an intentional broadcast to deceive. Have you ever done that? Have you ever set up a show
The only time, and I've said this on the air, that I want people to question what I'm doing is on April 1st.
Okay, fair enough.
On that day, and that day, whether it's an hour or 2 hours or the whole show, whatever you hear on April 1st, I want you to question it, and I want you to listen to it with a wary ear, because things just happen on April 1st. But in terms of setting up other things, nope, never. I mean, we go out and get guests and book them and stuff. That, I guess you could say, is being set up. But in terms of creating them or coming up with calls or stuff, no, it's free flowing.
Right, and I can testify to that. But I think for a lot of people out there, they just want to believe what they want to believe. And I'll give you a classic example. The Area 51 caller, right? The famous call, right?
That wasn't my call.
No, it wasn't. But check this out. So then I have
And that was done on April 1st, I believe.
Was it? Okay. Well, we'll get back to that. So a fan of the show, I'll say his name right now. His name's Michael Oming. He's a comic book artist, very successful comic book artist. And he contacts me and tells me, me and my friend Brian Glass, we were the Area 51 caller. And I was like, nah, this is off the air, right? I said, seriously? And he goes, yeah, man, we listen to Fade to Black and we draw our comics all day long. And that's what we do with Coast to Coast. We listen to Coast to Coast and, we develop storylines, Knights Templar, UFOs, CIA, whatever. And it's great stuff. It helps us write. And he said back then we had this idea with Area 51 that we would call in that night, and we had the whole thing scripted and done. Well, they did. They called in Brian Glass. Well, anyway, long story short, I said, can I get a hold of Brian? He goes, yeah, man, let's call him right now. So I call him, and he answers his phone. And I'm like, dude, it is you. And he goes, yeah, it is.
Was it his voice sounded
Oh,
the same?
Yeah. So I said to him, George, I go, you want to come on the air tonight? Now, this was the only time that I've ever set up a show, but I had to, right? So I said, Brian, call in tonight. I'm not going to tell you what to say. I don't want to improv, but you're going to be the Area 51 caller. And then we're going to go off the air. We're going to get knocked off the air. And then I'm going to bring you back, and you're going to introduce yourself to the world, and you're going to tell us how you did the original Area 51 call. Are you ready to come clean? He said, yes. So we did. And that night, George, set it up. Boom. I felt a little guilty going into this because I knew what was about to happen, but we did, and we did the show. Now, that video on YouTube has probably got 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 views. It's probably got 100,000 comments. Out of those 100,000 comments, 99,000 of them still think that the original caller was real. I gave them all the evidence. I gave them names, places, the guy, how they did it, and everything. But I cannot change their mind. And it's amazing how that works. And it's the same thing for you. What do you do? Do you just let it go? Do you choose to fight it when you can yell and scream about what the facts are with a caller, with a case? It's fraudulent. It's not fraudulent. It's real. People are going to believe what they are going to believe, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And, in that case, that particular call, to me, I thought it was a setup. Excuse me. And, I listened. I've got the tape. We've played it on the air before. And, I don't know whether Art knew about it or not. I don't know. I don't care. But, it sounded really well produced and rehearsed. And, but, we won't do that other than April 1st.
April 1st.
Don't forget. I mean, I just interviewed a three-headed person last year on April 1st, and this year I interviewed them again, except one had died. And, Jimmy, I'm still getting emails from people offering condolences to the family on the death of the person in the middle of the three heads. But you know what? It was April 1st.
Do you feel at times that because you bring on a guest that you are vetting them? You are the vetting process for the audience. You know, that you are backing them up. And do you have to fight that?
I look at things several ways. Number one, it's entertainment. It's a radio show. And it's also information. And at any given time, the program will either be that, information, hard-hitting, because there's lots of things going on this planet, or it's going to be fun, it's going to be entertaining, it's going to keep you on the edge of your chair, and you have to balance those things. But in terms of edging people on and stuff, I will try to get the most I can out of a guest, no matter who they are, whether they're serious. You can't get more serious than Craig Hewlett when he comes on,
right,
to talk about terrorism and things like that.
Right.
Or, people who, talk about ghosts and, Daniel Brinkley, Saved by the Light. So what I try to do is not put the guests down, accept who they are, and get the most I can out of them while they're on.
What is going on out there? And I'm referring to government cover-ups. There's something going on with ET. There's something there. There is something truly going on.
Well, there's no question about it. I don't think government will ever disclose. Steve Bassett and I talk about this all the time. They're not going to come out and say this. He's all excited that if Hillary gets elected, we're going to get full disclosure and everything else. No, of course not. They're not going to let us know. This is a vast universe. I think it's quite foolish to think we are alone in the universe. It doesn't mean there isn't a God, because I believe in a higher power. I don't know how or what, but it's there. This is not a fluke. This is not an accident. Now, there are many other civilizations out there on other planetary systems wondering the same thing, but those advanced ones have developed a way of travel. I mean, they're talking now about going to Mars in 3 days, and Linda Moulton Howe had a guest on that was talking about going to Mars in a few minutes.
Right.
If you jumpstart a civilization 1 million years ahead of our growth and knowledge, God knows what they'd be able to do. I think we've been visited. I think we've been genetically altered. I think many of the stories that you read in the Genesis part of the Bible are based on ET visitations, not angels coming, but extraterrestrials. And the stories were the best they could at the time, and that's how they described things, as they told them from, person to person to person over the centuries.
What has cemented these beliefs for you? Have you had a sighting that you can't explain? Have you had direct contact with a ghost? Have you had a gray at the foot of your bed?
Never had a gray at the foot of my bed. Really minimal experiences like that, other than psychic ability, intuitiveness, the ability to foresee things that could happen. I've had that happen to me, Jimmy, since I've been a kid. In terms of UFO experiences, only once with the late Ed Grimsley on the top of a hotel, and I saw a couple UFOs darting around with his night vision goggles. Have never seen a ghost. Saw what I thought were shadow rodents, or like little armadillos going across the road once. It was either that or my eyes were going on me. But
yeah, that happened to me in the 80s, but that probably had nothing to do with ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so much going on with people in terms of abduction stories, or seeing Bigfoot, or, the government doing this or that opened up my eyes to at least make me want to investigate the possibility that some of these things were really happening.
Tell me about what you saw with Ed Grimsley, and which I've never discussed that with you. What was it that you did see, And how bad did you trip out? I mean, did you stop and go, okay, holy crap, there is... This
yeah,
is,
I
this
mean,
is
it was,
something.
you know, Ed had been trying for years to try to get me to look at these things with his night vision goggles, and I thought he was some kind of stalker quack.
Right.
Until one day, I realized, you know what, this is a great guy, let's go look. And we went up there with about 20 other people, and I saw two objects doing 90-degree angle turns, 100, 200 miles up there, I don't know how high, with these night vision goggles. Everything looks green, but you can clearly see the stars in the sky, and these objects, which were star-like, went across the sky, stopped, made a right-hand turn, stopped, and, they weren't insects, they weren't birds, but they were clearly something that was under some kind of control, and I saw two of them, and it was really, really strange.
I'm scared of night vision, only because I know that I'm going to see what you've seen, and then my motto is to question everything. Well, at that point, you seriously do.
Exactly.
I remember, and Ed Grimsley, who just passed last month.
We're going to miss him.
Yeah, we're going to miss him. And George, I'll tell the audience really quick how much Ed meant to George. During Coast to Coast, George is working. I just ended Fade to Black, and Rita and I get home, and I get a text from George. Have you heard anything about Ed? And I was like, no, what have you heard? I don't know. Can you? And it was that night. And I know.
And you're my investigator. Whenever I hear these little rumors or stories, I go to you first and turn you loose.
It's and then you know who I turn it over to? It goes straight to Rita. That's it goes straight to Rita. She is so good at what she does. But Ed meant a lot to all of us, and I'm just glad that you brought him up. And I've only met him a couple of times, but yeah, he just passed. And
yeah, we're going to miss him.
Who do you have on the show tonight?
Tonight I've got Dr. Judy Wood with some updates on what she believes took down those Twin Towers, and then I've got open lines. I'm doing midweek open lines now for a couple hours, and so we're going to do that and have some fun and give some information and keep pushing coast to coast.
Really quick, I thought that before I let you go, you decided to, and Tom was telling me about this a few weeks ago, that you guys were going to open lines, move it to another night too as well. How is that? Yeah. How's that been going?
It's going great. Phone lines are lit. One person gets off the line, another one pops on, and you know how many lines we have by the nature of doing the show. People want to interact, and I love guests, but taking another 2 hours out of the week and letting people vent, I think was important, especially nowadays.
One of the things that I've realized more after being a listener to Coast and now working for Coast is that it is a caller-driven show. And you don't understand that concept until you're in the other seat. And I'm going to tell you right now, George, my favorite night is when you bring me in on a Friday, because I am able to just bang calls and talk to everybody, and it's my favorite night of the week. I do it,
and you're going to be doing it this week as I go to Cincinnati for the Victory of Light show.
And there you go. And all of the information is over at Coast to Coast?
Yep, it's right there on the highlight page.
You have a good show tonight with Dr. Judy Wood, and I want to thank you, George. Behave and keep rolling that rock uphill.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, George. Bye. George Noory, everybody. Thank you so much, George. Now, I hope we cleared up some questions for everybody. This is Fade to Black. That was George Noory. Coming up next, John Greenewald of the Black Vault. Great night here on Fade to Black. Thank you, George. Again, I want to know, everybody, right now, that was unscripted and great. Thank you, George. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy
Mario Carson el Tiburón y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Not being able to fall asleep is so frustrating. The tossing, the turning, the adjustment of pillows and blankets. Eventually you just decide to get up and start your day really early. It doesn't have to be this way though. Power Sleep is an all-natural non-prescription formula that will help you sleep like a baby. It contains neurotransmitter nutrients that promote the production of serotonin, which is responsible for feelings of well-being. Power Sleep is easy to digest and absorb and is made in a base of active probiotics. Don't miss another night of sleep. Order your Power Sleep at energywave.com or call 800-TURTLE-5. Add Power Vites to your cart while you're browsing. Perfect for Monday mornings. They're a complete multivitamin and mineral formula that will give you the energy you need to get through your day. Nourish your immune system and feel great. Get all the info and place your order at energywave.com. Enter code word SLEEP to get free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall. And it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Yeah, this is Bespoke Radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Use hashtag F2B for the sandbox. Twitter is live to my left, and it is completely out of control. John Greenwald Jr. He hosts the popular website, theblackvault.com. The Black Vault is the largest online database of U.S. government documents in the world. Right now, 1,416,430 pages online, and I'm reading that in real time. He began researching the secret inner workings of the U.S. government at the age of 15. He targeted such groups as the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, the Air Force, Army, Navy, NSA, DIA, countless others. Greenwald utilized the Freedom of Information Act to gain access to thousands of records. He accumulated an astonishing number of documents on topics relating to the UFOs, the JFK assassination, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, and, of course, top-secret aircraft. Greenwald has been featured on television networks such as the History Channel, Discovery Channel, Learning Channel, A&E, Fox, NBC, along with international networks such as the BBC and NTV. Of course, the website is theblackvault.com. And I'd like to welcome, for the first time, to Fade to Black, John Greenwald. John, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I told you earlier today I was going to throw you under the bus. I need the audience. I need the audience to understand one thing, and you get the famous Fade to Black first-time guest disclaimer. Let's get that out of the way first. Yeah, it's just you and I sitting on my couch as friends having a conversation. Where we start, we start. Where we end, and we'll end as friends. Are you ready, John? Now,
I can't wait. I'm excited.
Well, see, yeah, the audience needs to understand that you and I have been trying to put this show together now, going on 3 years, and you can. I want you to verify now to everybody, how many text and emails do I send you every single week?
Oh, it's hourly. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's stalking level. No, I know it's taken a long time, and I apologize for that. That's part of the mystique. I figure, I got to remain mysterious in the shadows, and so I just pretend to be really busy. That way, it just kind of adds to the build-up a little bit.
Well, one of the things, and I'm going to ask you directly, and this is for the audience because they see you on TV and they know about the Black Vault. But you are an extremely busy guy. You're out there doing shows and stuff. Tell everybody about your side gig from the Black Vault.
Sure. Well, my secret other life is I work not only on camera, as you mentioned, you can see me on quite a few TV programs that air, but not as well known as I work behind the scenes. Also, I work as a television producer and writer and director and janitor, whatever comes my way. I'm freelance, so, whatever gig comes my direction, I'll take it. But I do a lot of production for History Channel, Discovery Channel, National Geographic Channel, all networks that I've produced for and written for. And a lot of UFO programs, but I do everything and do a lot of non-UFO programming also. But, of course, those that do know me know that the UFO programming is kind of my passion, and that's ultimately what I'm known for. So that's my secret other life, and it's a blast because when I first started doing TV, I think my first interview, I was 17 years old, and I was still in high school, and it was for NBC. It was a nationwide documentary based on Whitley Strieber's book Confirmation, and it was the first time I'd ever been on TV. And these cameras showed up at my house and took me to school and shot me at high school, and I mean, it was really a cool experience, and I fell in love with it. And I never thought I would be doing it one day, and my television on-camera stuff continued, but I fell in love again with just the way that it was made, and got very lucky young in my career where I started writing a few shows and pitched them, and they ended up selling, and I went on to be, a low-level producer, and then just kind of worked my way up into supervising producer and writer and director, and, soon enough those shows were kind of my babies, so to speak, and it's been a wild ride, but one I wouldn't change for anything in the world. It's been a lot of fun.
What happened when you were 15? What was the epiphany? What was the crazy thing in your life that you just went knee-deep into all of these dark secrets?
I wish I would have a much better answer for you. I was just curious. As a 15-year-old kid, I had never seen any UFO. I'd never had any weird experience, and I was just kind of struck by curiosity of what did the government know about UFOs. And I started looking online, and at the time, Google wasn't even as big. I feel old saying that, but it was Alta Vista at the time, and I remember using it, just searching for UFOs. And even back then, you would get thousands and thousands of pages. Now it's millions and millions, but back then there wasn't as much. But you kept reading these stories online over and over. They were the same stories with different facts. And it kind of makes you go nuts trying to figure out, well, what exactly is it? What happened in this case or that case? And, often when I do public lectures, which I love to do, I tell the story a little bit more in detail. But in short, it was kind of the best decision that I ever made in my life, but it was also the stupidest. And I thought at that moment, if all these online websites are just, bunk, and they're one's telling fact A, B, and C, and the other one says A, B, and C isn't real, but this is real, and it just goes nuts. I thought that if anybody was going to tell me the truth, it'd be the United States government. And I mean, how stupid is that? You know, here I am 20 years later, and but I was 15 and I was naive, and I thought, well, hey, I could get the truth. And I taught myself how to use the Freedom of Information Act and started filing requests. And in the past 20 years, I've filed well over 5,500 requests, and like you said, amassed about 1.5 million pages of documents. And that's how I got started. I mean, again, I wish I had some experience to tell you, but it was just morbid curiosity that led me into attacking the government under the Freedom of Information Act, and then realizing, hey, I can make a difference here. I can get things that a lot of people don't have the patience for. It doesn't necessarily take the skill. I mean, I don't think that I can do anything that anybody else can't. I mean, I think that anybody can do this, but what I've given it that is very much a struggle for me is patience. And that's very much a struggle for all of us, because we want our answers now. You know, in the world that we live in, especially today, we want our answers right this very moment. We don't want to wait. And, you know, I've waited literally 13, 14, 15 years for a document to come. That's not an exaggeration. I would file a request, and literally well over a decade later, I would get the final response and get the document. Now, that's insane. I mean, when you really think about that, you know, I've at least for now anyway, I hope, knock on wood, I have the luxury of time behind me where I'm not going anywhere, you know, anytime soon. But how many researchers out there don't have 10, 15 years to wait, you know, not because they're going to pass away, but just because of curiosity. I mean, that just dies. It goes away. Mine hasn't, but I think it's unfortunate that they kind of prey on, hey, let's just kind of wait this out a little bit, make so-and-so wait 5 years, 10 years for them to get a response, and let them wait it out. And it's a very unfortunate thing, but at least once I get the documents, I put them online. And that's why I do what I do, is I satisfy my own curiosity. But when you want to download those documents that took me 10 years to get, you can get them in 2 minutes. And that's why ultimately I do what I do.
What year did you launch the Black Vault?
It was 1996 when I first started it.
Now, let me tell you something. I ask you that for a reason. In 1996, which it was, you know, AOL 1.0, right? Like you were just saying, Mosaic, Alta Vista, so forth. And so when the Black Vault launched, and I'm out there doing my thing, I lived in Sherman Oaks at the time. Across the street from coast to coast, by the way. That's what's really funny. And so I'm doing my thing online, and there was a Paranet, as you remember Paranet. And then I find out about the Black Vault. And then somebody said something somewhere that the Black Vault was a CIA front, right? And I read that, and that was like out of the gate, right? And I know you know where I'm going with this. And I got scared. Now, I wanted to go and click on the link, but the web back then was a mysterious thing, and you just didn't know really what was real and what wasn't, and it was fun, but it was scary at the same time. And then this mystique happened with the Black Vault. Now, first off, it's called the Black Vault, so that's creepy enough, right? So you got that going for you, John. And then, but there was this CIA connection to it from the very beginning. So I'm going to ask you right now, any connections to the CIA, or was this the brainchild of a kid from Burbank?
No, you know, I've heard quite a few conspiracies about me and the website, and I'll dispel the myth. No, there's no connection between them. The only connection is, and this is just my opinion, is they probably hate me and want to stay far away from that thing, and they don't want to be mentioned on it, because the Black Vault has kind of grown, and we haven't really mentioned this yet, but the Black Vault has grown well beyond the UFO thing, where it started back in 1996, where I will deal and tackle any government government secret that has come my way. In fact, I'm sure, as your listeners can probably think of 1,000 different secrets and rumors and conspiracies that have come up. I've probably done some type of a FOIA request to go after it. Unless it's so completely outlandish, I don't touch the too crazy stuff. But I will go after documents on just about everything. And those 1.5 million pages do just that. They tackle everything that has essentially come across my desk. And again, 20 years later, I just file these FOIA requests to the CIA and the NSA and the FBI. So, no, there's no connection to them. I can probably guarantee they don't want people like me around, because not only do I send in the FOIA and utilize it, I take that information and give it to everybody who is curious, and I give it away for free. You don't need to pay for it or anything like that. Going back to what you were saying about AOL 1.0, when I first started using the internet a little over 20 years ago, before I started the Black Vault, I was using America Online for DOS, for the computer geeks listening. So I started on DOS, but when I started the Black Vault, HTML, the language that you see when you surf the internet, HTML is the main language that's used for the web. That was in its infant stages, and in fact, backgrounds didn't exist. You couldn't put a background. It was just pretty much a gray-black background with black text, and that was it. And that's how I started the Black Vault, and I literally didn't have a scanner because I couldn't afford one. And I would type in the documents by hand. And I remember I got to about 500 pages, and I was just in high school at that point, and got to about 500 pages, and you go cross-eyed trying to type in these government documents by hand. And I got an email from somebody who kind of came out of the blue and saw what I was doing and believed in it and said, I have this old flatbed scanner I'd like to send you as a donation. And sure enough, he sent me this flatbed scanner, and that really kind of started to excel the Black Vault into getting those 400, 500 pages that I typed in by hand. I went back and rescanned them, and now there were images online. PDFs really didn't even exist back then. I did pages with GIF files, just pictures, and you'd have to click through one by one by one. So it's come a long way. Now most everything on the Black Vault's all PDF. That's what we all know and love for looking at documents. But, just to kind of give a little bit of insight, that's what the Black Vault started as, and it just has blown up to something that I never dreamt of as a 15-year-old kid, chomping away on that keyboard, typing in these documents. I even developed a code, like a little legend for different characters that represented the text that I couldn't read, or blacked out text, because obviously you couldn't see the picture of the document in the beginning. So I had to figure out, well, how was I going to depict blacked out text, or, unreadable text, or so on and so forth. And so I made this legend of all the different characters to use. And, I look back now and I go, wow, that was a lot of fun. But at the time, boy, it sure wasn't, because it was a painstaking process.
Is it still, are you a one-man operation?
I am, and I think, and this is, I'm not sure if I take it as a compliment or not, because the attacks come also. I appreciate the praise, and that is the majority of what I get. But attacks come my way also, and usually the attacks are like worded that I'm some kind of, army of people out there targeting, fill in the blank of the politician or whomever, and so they politicize the whole thing, and so they think that I'm like some kind of, army of people out there. I'm not. I wish I was. I wish I had a few people behind me, but it's just me. I've done this thing alone since day one, and still do it alone.
We'll talk about the Project Blue Book debacle, whatever you want to call it, after the break.
Yeah.
But have you ever posted a document that you had to take down?
No, and I'm a little surprised at that. The reason why I'm surprised is after 9/11, 9/11 changed a lot. Not only, our airport security and obviously the common sense stuff, but it changed a lot when it came to classification of certain types of material. And I know that the National Archives, for a fact, that had declassified X amount of pages over the years, went back and actually reclassified stuff that they had released. Now, why am I surprised? Well, I'm surprised that nothing I have was ever tagged as, hey, this has to be reclassified, at least that I know of. I've never been contacted, no knocks on the door or friendly requests to, take this down. For the record, I am a big believer in the fact that some secrets should be kept. And I think that surprises a lot of people. I don't believe in the work of Julian Assange. In fact, I'm very outspoken about the damage that has done. I believe that some secrets should be kept, and as much as I push to get them out, I am a firm believer that there are certain things that we shouldn't know. So I would absolutely comply if I ever got a request like that. They've just never come. So the 1.5 million pages that I've received, never had an issue with it.
Have you read them all?
Admittedly, no. It's a lot. So a lot of times I'll get documents that maybe don't help my research, but I can't tell you how many letters I've received over the years where it has helped other people in their research. So even though I don't dive in and dissect every character of every document that I get, those types of letters really make me feel that all of it is worthwhile. And right down to the hardcore scientific stuff that even if I did try and sit down and understand it, I don't think my brain could ever comprehend some of the scientific reports that have come my way. But getting letters from research teams and scientists that said that they've worked years on, a certain project and they went and downloaded information. For example, I got a letter from a scientific team who was researching the science behind stem cells and cloning. And I had received this letter, and they had a couple documents that they downloaded from the Black Vault, and they said, this was amazing to their research, and they went into kind of a little bit more detail about how it helped them. But I bring that up as an example. It's just so amazing that what may not be something that interests me is something that's gold for somebody else, and that's always amazing for me to hear. About a year ago, I'll refresh your memory. About a year ago, I contacted you and said, "Dude, I got these images, and I've got this story," and you remember exactly what I'm talking about. And then, and you called me the next day, "Dude, what's up, man? I want that stuff." And I said, "I think it's a hoax." And I said, you just be patient, give me 24 hours. And then I ended up debunking the whole thing, and I told you about it. And obviously we did not go forward. And I posted a pretty angry letter on our website about it and how angry I was about being duped by somebody that was duped. Yeah. They were duped, but it trickles down. You are a huge flag waver when it comes to hoaxing and well, the correct term would be debunking certain images. And I always follow up on the Black Vault for just that. Do you get a bunch of angry feedback from that? Dude, those images are real. No, you're wrong. And how difficult is it to constantly take that position when you know that you don't want to post something that is fraudulent? I get those letters a lot, and it's hard because truth means a lot to me, and honesty means a lot to me. And over the years, when I started the Black Vault and just had the government document archive, I now launched about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, what's called the case file database, because so many people were coming to me with their UFO and paranormal experiences, but also other cases as well. And I created this case file database to essentially create an archive that people could reference. So very much like yourself, where you say you kind of reference that material material. What I aim to do is to get a lot of these cases, put them online, and get feedback, get interaction with the public, because there's some brilliant people out there in their own right. Some are brilliant with photo analysis, some are brilliant looking at video, some are brilliant with CGI. And so, you post that and you look for that type of a feedback. Other times when something comes across my way, I'll create a case file, highlight it as a hoax if I can prove it, and that makes a lot of people mad. And I don't understand really why. I think that there's this truly epidemic of people out there that have this desire to essentially dupe the public. You've fallen victim to it, as with your story that you just said. I get stuff all the time. Everybody in this field gets stuff all the time. And I think that there's this thirst, what I call this thirst for virality, that people are looking for that next viral video. They want Jimmy Church to profile X, Y, and Z because it's their creation, and they need that 2 million hits, when you announce it. And this publication says Jimmy Church just talked about this, so it has to be real. And I think that people thirst for that, and it's a shame. And I joke about this, but now I'm starting to be serious how social networking is really kind of killing this field. And I want to write a book about it because I think that social networking is very much working against because of people like that, and we have to get beyond it. So my aim and goal with highlighting those hoaxes is to break down just the common sense and logic of look at this document or look at this photo or look at this video, and you can see that it's not real because of this, and that's what I do. And it's amazing that people will attack you for doing that. And I'm not really sure what that is. And I think I have a couple theories. One is people want to believe, some people, not everybody, but some people want to believe so bad that they don't bother me with the truth. My mind is made up. And I think that's a portion of what's out there.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me because what most people don't realize that is that if you simply get an image, you can right-click on it and search Google and pop up an entire history of something. Mm-hmm. And that's really it. It's a very simple thing to go and research. For those people out there that see certain things, don't contact me or contact the Black Vault. Right click. That's all.
Yeah.
And I had somebody about 6 months ago sent me an image of this craft in an airplane hangar, right? And it was brilliant, man. It looked beautiful. I was like, oh, holy crap, right? And they were like, man, this was just leaked to me from a friend, right? That was the email. Mm-hmm. So I right-clicked on it, and it was from a CGI company, a stock image for created artificial environments. That's what they do. A fake dentist office, a fake living room in Palm Springs, whatever. They create these 3D environments. And one of them, and it was labeled Flying Saucer in Hangar, right? On their website for $5.99 or whatever. But somebody chose to do that, and the person that sent it to me gave me this big elaborate story behind this image. All you got to do is right-click, and I wrote him back, and I sent him the link to the website, and he's like, oh, dude, my friend snowed me. But that's what they do now. It's fascinating to me. They'll believe what they want to believe instead of just doing a right-click simple search.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the ones, just a very quick story about it, is one of the recent hoaxes that I've seen, and it's gone viral. There's a lot of people forwarding it and sharing it and liking it, and this was allegedly a photograph, black and white, grainy, of aliens and like these, sacks hanging from the ceiling, and they said that it was leaked from Thomas Costello, who was linked to the Dulce underground base, and it literally took me, just moments to kind of research it, figure it out. And this was a screenshot from the movie The Sixth Day starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And what they did is they took this screenshot, dirtied up the image, put it online, and it circulated for years as true. And you look at that and you go, come on, no wonder people laugh at the field, because you've got silly things like this out there, and it takes moments to just before you click on like or share to try and research it a little bit. And so why would you get attacked for doing that? I'm not really sure, but again, it just kind of leads into how social networking, I think, is partly damaging the field in a way. Now, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. I think that it does a lot of good as well. I mean, I love, the fact that the Black Vault has 30,000+ followers on the page, and they're great people that love to post and post. But you do see a lot of this material that's just blatant hoaxes being forwarded around and shared. And when you have amazing verifiable cases and nobody talks about them, and then you have a verified hoax and it gets 3 million likes and shares, you just kind of have to scratch your head and go, geez, what am I doing wrong? What can I do differently for people to understand this is a hoax and this is something that's worth taking a look at? And, whatever the answer is, I'm not really sure what it is, but whatever that answer is, that's what I'm trying to do with the case file database, is organize the hoaxes in one category and those that are still unknown, put those in another. And I've grown that now to literally thousands of cases from around the globe of, different photographs, videos, and testimonials of things that people just simply can't explain.
This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, John Greenwald. More with John right after this break. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
If your home has hard water and it's leaving white spots, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes. Limescale can cost hundreds of dollars a year in wasted energy and early appliance breakdown. HydroCare systems available at Wave Home Solutions prevent and remove limescale with just a simple filter change every 3 years. There are no salts, chemicals, or magnetic coils. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, just go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
If you're a talk radio fan, AccessRadio.net lets you listen to the best talk shows anytime and from anywhere. Works on your mobile or landline phone, and there's no cost if you have unlimited minutes. No need to use your data. Find your favorite talk show listen lines and discover new ones. Now you can listen on your schedule. Go to AccessRadio.net. That's AccessRadio.net. Save your favorite listen lines today.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood. Not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Great show tonight. Thank you to George Noory. Right now we're speaking with the one and only John Greenwald, theblackvault.com. And truly, and I've said this before, hey, John, you remember back at the MUFON Symposium when you introduced me and I jumped out there and I said, okay, everybody, just to let you know, I get all of my stuff from the Black Vault, right?
I do remember.
And I really meant that. And what I really wanted, not only MUFON, but I want the world to know, I mean, the Black Vault is a true gem for the internet. It's been around for a long time, but it is a true, honest resource. And for a guy like me, when I hit that spot and I need I need a place to go, it's the Black Vault. That's where I go, and I'm honest when I say that. I just out of the gate right now, I just want to thank you for all that you have done, and it has been a monumental ride for you. And I'm sure you didn't expect it either, but you just do an amazing job. Now, enough of the bro.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Enough of the bro love. Okay, let's move on.
Hey, I'm always down for a bromance. So flattery gets you everywhere.
Yeah, okay, all right. Fair enough. Now, let's talk about documents that you may or may not want to post. Let's go there. First off, if you're speaking to this audience right now, what's your favorite document? What's the one when you're talking to somebody and and you say, okay, when you go to the Black Vault, check this page out. What's that one document?
Well, are we talking about UFOs or just out of anything?
Out of anything.
Out of anything, Wow, I guess it would depend on the day. That's a tough question. Yeah, I think that I would probably have to zero in on the UFO stuff, just simply because I think that the UFO material to me is the most fascinating, and I can comfortably say that out of every topic that I've tackled, whether it be the JFK assassination or nuclear weapons, biological weapons, so on and so forth, the UFO topic has always been the toughest and the hardest, and they've always had the most pushback when it comes to the UFO material. Is there one document? Well, the one that I have to bring up that will always remain, in my heart as one of the best and my favorite is not one that I discovered, but one that I read that got me interested in the government and what their connection to UFOs was, and infamously that has been known and called as the 1976 Iran incident. And for those who don't know, it's a 4-page government document that was declassified a couple decades ago and found and written about in many books. Again, I don't claim to have found this, but as a 15-year-old kid, this was the first document that I had read on the internet, and it was a UFO that when you read science fiction and you hear the term mothership, I mean, that's really ultimately what this thing was being described as in this government document. And not one, not two, but actually 3 UFOs come out of this initial craft, one of which, according to the document, may have landed actually on Earth. It strategically shut down 2 separate F-4 Phantom jets that were scrambled to go try and figure out what this object was. It's this amazing account, right, that you would look at this thing and go, there's no way that this is genuine. And that was the first document that I had requested under the Freedom of Information Act, never expecting that I would actually get it. And sure enough, it actually showed up in my mailbox, and it was 100% genuine. And I reread it from the official government agency that sent it to me, namely the Defense Intelligence Agency. And when you read it, it's the exact same thing that was on the internet. But wow, did it have a different meaning when a United States government intelligence agency actually sent it to me. And so I bring that one up because that will, again, always remain in my heart as one of my favorites, because that 4-page document got me to where I am today and 20 years later, because that instilled that fascination and curiosity in me that hasn't died. decide. Now, moving on from that, I think one thing that is definitely an honorable mention came in just the last couple of years, where under the Freedom of Information Act, I'm sure your audience, if they haven't heard about it, can now deduce that you can request information. And by law, the government has to respond. They don't have to give you what you request, but they have to respond, and they process your request accordingly. And if the document doesn't fall under a few exemptions, then they will release it to you. If it is exempted, they'll black it out, and in some cases, they'll just withhold the whole thing. If that's the case, or where they black things out or withhold it, the next step is you can file what's called a mandatory declassification review. Now, without getting too technical, there's a reason I'm bringing this up, is that a mandatory declassification review allows a requester, after something is denied or if something is blacked out, if a certain time has elapsed after they blacked it all out, you can actually request the government to re-review it. Because what was classified in 1996 may not be classified in 2016. And so that's when you file an MDR. And so a few years ago, I started tackling all the UFO documents that were blacked out, because there are literally thousands of pages of UFO material that should not exist, a lot of which is blacked out. So I filed an MDR. We'll first deal with the NSA. And the National Security Agency literally has about 400, 500 pages of UFO material, largely blacked out from top to bottom. Some pages have 3 to maybe, if you're lucky, 4 or 5 words on it. That's it. The rest is blacked out or whited out.
Wow.
Now, I filed an MDR to the NSA, and their response was that everything was lost, that they somehow misplaced 100% of all of their UFO documents and couldn't find it. They all vanished. Now, the likelihood of that happening, in my opinion, is nil. Out of 5,500 FOIA requests, never has that happened to me. Now, fast forward, I did the same thing with the Defense Intelligence Agency. They also literally have hundreds of pages, some of which you can see are stamped top secret. They're the highest level of classification. Why? On a subject that's just swamp gas on the planet Venus, I have no idea.
Right.
But they are still considered top secret, blacked out. Filed an MDR to the DIA, and what do you think they said? They lost them all. Now, the likelihood of one agency losing them, in my opinion, pretty nil. The likelihood of 2 agencies losing 100% of their UFO material, I think you got a better chance of winning the lottery while you're getting hit by lightning a second time, because there's no way that that's true, and yet that's what they throw at me. So I know that that's going a little bit off from your question. It's not necessarily one document, but in my opinion, that in itself is a documented piece of evidence that is high on my list, because that material, whatever's underneath that black, whatever they consider top secret, is lost forever. We will never know what's underneath that, according to the government. And that's a pretty cruddy thing to make us, as people who do want to know the truth, who are searching for it, that's a pretty cruddy thing to make us go through.
Well,
and that's what 2 major intelligence agencies have done.
And especially when you just know that they are lying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have the documents. They're just lying, and they're expecting you to either forget, relax, or just go away.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm seeing them do now, which is very frustrating, is instead of waiting, 10, 15 years for, a document to come, because years ago, eventually that document would come, or at least a response would. Now I'm seeing this big influx in responses where they send you a letter and they say, we're just closing your request unless we hear from you that you're still interested. So having me never contact them and say, well, you know what, guys, it's been 5 years. I don't care anymore. They're just going to close my request unless I, yet again, file another letter that says, no, please keep it open. I'm still interested. And they're doing that now. So you have to stay not only on top of the FOIA requests and making sure that they're being processed, you then have to stay on top of the letters that come that say, well, it's been 5 years. We haven't given you what you want, so we're just going to close it unless you tell us otherwise. That's not how the law works, and yet that's what they're doing, and I'm seeing a huge influx in that. So So it's a very frustrating thing. You know they're lying on many occasions. You know that they're not telling the truth. And it's one of those sports games where the opposite team, they make the rules. They're also the referee. And by the way, you got to play blindfolded with your hands tied behind your back, and you can't leave the bench. I mean, that's essentially the game. And you got to play by their rules. You can't say, hey, wait a minute, objection, Your Honor, I don't agree with this. You can't do it. Now, there are things that you can do, like an MDR, but look where that got me on some occasions that I've already mentioned.
Right.
You can appeal it, and I have had some successes, and then you can also take them to court. But how many people have the money and the financial resources to say, hey, by the way, CIA, I'm suing you. Let's go duke this out in a courtroom. And there's not a whole lot of places that actually can do that.
What do you do with documents that, like the MJ-12 documents? Do you use words like allegedly, purported? You know, how do you deal with that?
In my own research, or when I speak about
No,
it?
when you post it.
Well, when I don't post those, I will post. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't post a leaked document or something that's not verified. So 100% of what you see in the Black Vault is 100% real, given to me by the United States government. There are a few examples from people that I have communicated with that do FOIA requests like myself, and I give credit where credit is due. And those researchers got credit on the Black Vault for a few documents. And those are all tagged as such, but 100% genuine. When a document like MJ-12 surfaces and circulates, I don't just outright add that. Now, MJ-12 is a bad example. The reason is because there are government documents on MJ-12. It does not confirm that MJ-12 exists like we want it to, meaning this top-secret organization, you know, that's covering up the UFO alien existence. I'm not saying it's that, but there's an FBI file on the MJ-12 documents on their investigation. In there are copies of the actual MJ-12 documents that have been quote-unquote leaked out and circulated for years. So MJ-12 is kind of a bad example, but
it's not. Did you post the ones? I'm going to go and look, actually, out of curiosity. Did you do the bogus FBI documents where they wrote bogus across?
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about is in there were these documents that they labeled bogus. So they did this investigation and determined that those documents were not real. So when I get a document that's leaked away from MJ-12, I don't deal with it at all. For me in the Black Vault, this is just this is the true nature of why I do what I do. Is I want to make sure that if anybody challenges me on the 1.5 million pages that are on the blackvault.com, I can go back and say, you don't have to take my word for it. You can get it yourself. So everything on there is verified. So that's why I don't deal with the leaked document stuff. Going back to the MJ-12, what you might find interesting, and along with your listeners, is I have a page from the FBI, not only with the MJ-12 documents, but I went after the files on every alleged member. Sorry, I got to use the alleged word, but every alleged member of MJ-12. And wouldn't you know, like 100% of them have files. And so I have them all listed on that page where you can see a picture of Vandenberg and Berkner and all the guys that were allegedly part of MJ-12. I have their files, Twining, Montague, Menzel, Hunsaker, everybody. So you can go and download all of their FBI files. And those all did come from the FBI directly. So it's kind of interesting to see that although this doesn't confirm that MJ-12 exists, it confirmed that whomever created them, if they are a hoax, they did a lot of research behind it. I mean, these were guys that, you know, were high-level, high-ranking, that if a group like this existed, it probably would read a roster just like this. And so that's my effort. There's amazing researchers like Stanton Friedman, who's been a dear friend of mine now for about 20 years. He was one of the first people I corresponded with, and we've been friends ever since. But he does amazing work looking in these documents, and there's nothing really I can add beyond what he's done. But my angle is a little bit different, where I look at and dissect the actual people and the FBI files of those people and see, what did the FBI have on them, or why did they have FBI files. So it's pretty interesting to dive into that material.
And everything is searchable and indexable on the site, which is an amazing amount of work. And I bring that up because, obviously, I want to talk a little bit about the Blue Book fiasco and what and what Ancestry.com came and did. Which it was vicious. It was foul. I'll say those words for you. Okay, you don't have to go. I'll save the lawsuit. They can sue me. Okay, but why do you think they did it? And I'm going to ask this question: do you think they did it just because the web went bananas? The clicks, the visibility, and everything else that they were upset because you were getting the visits to your site? Do you think it came down to that, like it was a dollars issue? I mean, why would they care about Project Blue Book?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, for those who don't know, the very quick backstory is there was a subsidiary of Ancestry.com called Fold3 that had posted these Blue Book documents. The only reason they had them was that they bought out this company that does not exist anymore that had scanned them years ago. And I created a database that was much easier, in my opinion, much easier to use. I compiled everything into searchable PDFs, created a search engine, put it online. Like you said, the web went bananas. I was on ABC World News Tonight, the Today Show, and in every interview I conducted said these aren't new documents. And I know that we're a little short on time, but the short of it is this actually leads into a bigger problem that I think beyond Ancestry.com, that the media just does not cover these stories correctly, that I told all of them, these aren't new documents. This is just essentially a new way to access them. And I think people saw how easy it was, and that's why it blew up. Now, Ancestry.com filed a copyright claim to these public domain records that have been around for decades. I mean, I've lectured about them for a decade. They came after me. They said they were copyrighted to them, and this started this gigantic firestorm on the internet, because then everybody was thinking it was some conspiracy or this or that. Was it money? Well, I will comfortably say this publicly. I offered them 100% of the advertising space that they can do whatever they wanted. They did not want it. I told them that they could have or sell whatever they wanted, 100% of the proceeds being kept by them. They did not want to do it. So is it money? I don't know. Were they mad that they've had these documents for years and then I put them up and it blows up in a week? I'm not real sure. I don't have the graph anymore, but if anybody looks at those Google trend graphs,
I remember
fascinating.
When you posted those, I looked at that, and for a minute there, right? That was the most explosive web traffic anywhere on planet Earth. It was pretty gnarly to watch.
It was huge.
Yes.
Yeah, it was huge, and I'm excited to kind of have caused that. It's a shame that it ended up the way it did. I was forced to take them down. I did have the opportunity to fight them. I do believe I'd win. There was a New York Supreme Court case that was fought and by two other parties years ago, and it was case law that I feel confident that would have sided in my favor. But I have a family. I have an amazing wife. I have a beautiful, now 2-year-old son. He wasn't even 1 when this all transpired. So what am I going to, I'm a humble guy from Southern California who does not have the money to take on a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And they literally threw a legal empire in my direction, all because of UFO documents. Now, who the heck connects Ancestry.com to UFO material, right? I guarantee nobody that's listening right now is raising their hand going, yeah, when I think of Ancestry, I think of UFOs. I mean, that's ridiculous. So why this whole thing happened, I'm not real sure. But I think the bigger problem ultimately was how the media glommed onto it. And I caught quite a bit of heat for this, wherein the media said that they were brand new. And so I get kind of like tangled into this thing. Well, John Greenwald released these new
new documents. Well, they weren't new. And let me just tell you a very quick story on kind of how the media really kind of screwed this up, so to speak, where I was in it was a major network. I'm not going to point fingers at anybody because that's not fair, but it was a major network. And I was in the studio doing a remote interview with a crew in New York, and I had the earpiece in, and the producer was on with me, and she was asking some questions on, well, why do you think now they're releasing these things? I kid you not, for 10 minutes prior to the interview that was live, for 10 minutes, I said, no, they're not new. This is why I believe it's blowing up. No, by the way, they're not new. This is where, no, by the way, I've talked about these for decades, and to be honest with you, they're actually the most boring UFO documents you can read, and I do stand by that statement. They're kind of the dullest, but it does kind of add legitimacy when you have like 35,000 pages of these things. So for 10 minutes, I'm kind of going back and forth with the producer, just not getting it, right? We go live on this major show. What do you think the first question is?
Why do you think
right now I mean, I just wanted to, throw a brick through the window because, and that's just one example. That happened pretty much with every news media outlet out there, and it's unfortunate. There were a few that did a great job. That they didn't have 100% of it correct, but they did a great job covering it. But yeah, it's that to me is the bigger problem. It's unfortunate that Ancestry made me take him down. It's unfortunate that I got kind of caught up in this, whole thing. And again, a lot of flack was thrown my direction because, there's the allegation of you misled the public, you misled the media, you wanted attention, this and that. And it really ultimately wasn't. I mean, if anybody reads the articles where I actually did do an interview, they largely got it right. The ones that didn't, actually, I never talked to them. In fact, that's where I believe the problem lies, is that so many media outlets now are copying. It's the copy and paste syndrome. Oh, wait a minute. Newspaper A is running the story. We got to run it too, so let's do it. So they literally just copy and paste it over, make it their own words, change the byline, and poof, there it goes. And in fact, I was on with George Noory a year or two ago about a case where a mysterious quote-unquote sea monster that went viral, and I found myself in the middle of it because I actually found the sailor of the guy who shot the video of this alleged sea monster in the Persian Gulf. Well, the media just copied each other, and they had like this whole story completely wrong. They said it was the Iranian Navy, and they had where it was found wrong. They had just had every fact wrong. The only thing they got right was the actual visual. And so, that this thing went viral. But I was on with George talking about the same thing, that the media just doesn't care about the facts. They want the hits. And UFOs talk, and paranormal talks, and that generates the clicks. And so, not to go off on a tangent, but I think that really was the large part of what happened with this Blue Book debacle, is they just thought, well, who cares if it's new or not? Let's just call it new and put it out there. And, it went viral, and I think that ultimately led to its downfall. It was so popular, Ancestry just wanted to kind of nip it in the bud and say, no, we're not going to let you have them. It's public domain, but we don't care.
And the fascinating thing when it ran its course, because it did go viral in probably a day. I mean, you can't stop something like that once it takes off.
Yeah.
And I would go to, it didn't matter, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, International Business Times, ABC. It didn't matter. Anywhere that I went with this, both on television and on the internet, all had the exact same headline, like you said, cut and paste, which was website now has government released documents on UFOs. For the first, and I thought they really are not vetting this story. Project Blue Book is what it is, and we've all known it. We've all read it, and it was incredible to me how they didn't care. They just wanted the clicks. They wanted, to ride the wave that was taking off across the country without vetting anything. And trust me, they had no concern with the truth.
And it's too bad. What I did find fascinating, though, in the short time that it was online, is that, and I'm trying to figure out the right way to do this, but for obvious reasons, I'm treading very carefully on dealing with Blue Book material unless I get it directly from the government. But I received a lot of letters, a select few, I won't say a lot, but I was receiving letters from the original Blue Book witnesses that are not involved in the UFO field, that as far as I can tell, most of them that had written me were not interviewed, that they heard the news story, went online, went to my database, easily found their case, went in there, and could not believe what the government had tagged as the explanation, because most of these people never were followed up. So during the Blue Book era, if you saw a UFO sighting and the Air Force came out to investigate it, they didn't give you a call and say, by the way, Louise, you saw a weather balloon or you saw this, that, or whatever. They essentially just took it and that was it. Well, in the 40s and 50s and all through the 60s, the Freedom of Information Act didn't exist. And this, I think, is a very important point that I don't think I can adequately show because of ancestry and what they did. But when these witnesses came forward and they saw the explanation and the fact that their case went into the explained column for Project Blue Book, they said there was no possible feasible way that the explanation that they would come up with could explain what they saw. And here they are decades later. They come across these documents that at the time were probably never meant to see the light of day. They take a look at this and they realize that that explained statistic, because so many of the Blue Book cases were quote-unquote explained, is wildly skewed wrong. And there was probably a reason for that because of, and fill in the blank, the UFO cases were going elsewhere, or the government just wanted to shut everyone up, or whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. But these witnesses were starting to come forward, and they were writing me letters, and I was archiving that with the original Blue Book material, and it started to unfold and paint a very fascinating picture. Unfortunately, that was all killed and wiped out. But that kind of showed me, hey, maybe this Blue Book stuff isn't as boring and dull as I thought. A lot of these people don't buy into that official line, that there's a lot more to be found out over what Blue Book has claimed to have solved. But in reality, it just doesn't match up to the truth.
Hey, John, I'm going to get you to hang on for another 10 minutes after this break, because I have one question I want you to think about that was just sent in, and then I want you to answer it after the break. And this is the question. What is the most shocking thing you have ever found in a document? Now, think about that during the break, and when we come back, you can answer it. I think that is a great question, one that I didn't even think of. So, John, hang on and answer that and think about that during the break. Our guest tonight is John Greenewald from the Black Vault. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll get John to answer that question with a little 5 or 10 minutes of overtime right after the break. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Angioprim can clean blocked arteries and improve blood flow in all parts of your body. Angioprim is liquid oral chelation. It's not new science. 50 years of research has gone into chelation, and now there's Angioprim. Easy, simple, liquid oral chelation. You take it with juice before breakfast and forget about it. Angioprim works fast, unlike old-fashioned chelation that takes hours. The first thing Angioprim users say is they have more energy, more strength, more endurance. Increased circulation and blood flow will make all your body parts work better. better. Log on now at angioprim.com to get more information on how you can get started and start feeling better and doing more. Lots more. Talk to a trained Angioprim consultant or go to angioprim.com for help. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. That's Angioprim at 877-882-7221. Get the facts about Angioprim. Begin living the life you want, doing the things you used to do again with Angioprim.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Talking to John Greenwald of the Black Vaults. And right before the break, got this question in on Twitter, John, and it's a great one, and it's an honest one. And I can't believe I didn't ask, which is, what is the most shocking thing that you have ever found in a document?
It's a great question. It's tough to answer. The analogy that I've used over the years is when you put these documents together, there's never really just one. They all kind of fit together like a big puzzle, and it starts to put a picture together. And for me, when you start to kind of make sense and a picture starts to form, you realize that that's just a piece to an even bigger puzzle. And it just goes on and on when it comes to trying to track down the essentially the proof. If I had to pick one, I would, because there's literally thousands, so it depends on what angle you want to go. But I'll bring up Air Force Instruction 10-206. And the reason I bring this up is because when you look into what the government and military, when it comes to the United States, has done in relation to UFO research, they want you to believe that the Project Blue Book investigation from 47 to 69 was it. And that after 1969, they did not care about UFOs or investigating them.
What was what was that number? Go ahead and give that to me again.
What number? For when they did the research?
The number that you just gave us for the document. I just wanted to punch it in.
Air Force Instruction 10-206. And so after Blue Book closed, there are thousands of UFO documents that you can get from different intelligence agencies that should not exist based on what the government wants you to believe. Now, the one I will highlight is this Air Force manual that I had uncovered. It's a story that literally took me a few years to kind of unravel, but to summarize this, I found black and white proof that the United States Air Force itself, well into the 2000s, had a manual that outlined certain things to report. Their pilots that were under mandatory. It was mandatory that they follow this particular instruction, that they report unidentified flying objects. Now, what is an unidentified flying object to the United States military? Well, other than the obvious, that's an unidentified object, we kind of don't know. And so I tried to file requests for these reports reports. They're called service reports. And wouldn't you know that they go to one government agency, NORAD, that is not subject to the Freedom of Information Act? And I was shot down, so to speak, of trying to obtain these documents. Now, they told me in good faith they searched for records, found nothing. I actually was able to uncover literally hundreds of them through the Canadian government, so it was definitely there. So what I had proven was that they were lying about UFOs, and Air Force Instruction 10-206 specifically mandated for Air Force pilots to report unidentified flying objects. Now, to conclude this story, the Huffington Post and my friend Lee Spiegel, who's a great investigative journalist, was doing a story on me in the Black Vault, and he asked a very similar question. What were some of the documents? Now, he asked for 5, and Air Force Instruction 10-206, I brought it up to him, and I taught him how to download it from the military directly. He didn't even have to take my word for it. He was fascinated by it. And he reached out to the Pentagon to try and get a response. And I showed him multiple revisions of this document, meaning they had multiple opportunities to take UFOs out. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe it was a mistake. No. They wanted this thing in. UFOs was untouched. I kid you not, within 48 hours of Lee Spiegel from the Huffington Post calling the Pentagon, he goes back to download the document, and it was completely changed. The entire chapter on UFOs was completely erased, and they had replaced it with something else. He eventually got a response and was told it was a coincidence. So I bring up this document because this was black and white proof that they are still interested in this phenomena today. And yet when a major media outlet goes to spotlight it, one of the few examples of the media really doing their job and doing their job well, they completely cover it up. And you have to ask yourself why, because they could have easily just addressed it. Well, look, we don't think they're aliens, but we want to know what kind of unidentified craft are in the sky. And that could have been it. I would have bought into that. I actually would have not thought it was that big of a deal. But the fact that they had to go and then just erase the entire thing within 48 hours of a media inquiry is a coincidence that I just can't buy. So I think that story for me stays near the top as being one of the most important, because I think that black and white proof, which is now gone, that black and white proof showed that this phenomena is real, that the military and the government still is interested in it. Not 40, 50 years ago, but still interested in it in the last 5+ years. And when you spotlight it and the major media is about to say, hey, look at this, and they erase the whole thing, that to me is a pretty big piece of damning evidence that there's a major cover-up going on. Cover-up of what? I'll let your listeners decide. But why is it that I can get nuclear weapons secrets or documents pertaining to biological weapons tests on humans without their knowledge? All the crazy stuff the government has done, why is it easier for me to get those things than UFO documents? And it's a question that I wrestle with pretty much every day.
This is the 15th of October, 2008 date. Is the updated one, was it dated after 2008? Which version is this?
Yeah, I've been meaning to make a page kind of outlining that story. What I would recommend anyone to do is, before I say that, is search for the Huffington Post article. Obviously I didn't want to just copy their work, but I'll probably reach out to Lee to make a copy of it and distribute it as well, because I think it's important. So, yeah, the one that was updated, I believe, was 2000, if I remember correctly, 2013.
Right.
So I'll have to send you the link for that, but it's definitely interesting, the fact that they switched all that. But the 2008 was the latest one up until the point that they took UFOs out.
So this one's the 2008. Fascinating too. I just went through it. Huge document, by the way. It's 111 pages. What about really quick? Then I'm going to let you go. What have you found when it comes to chemtrails?
Well, there's a lot of historical examples of that are verified of testing that the Army and the Air Force had done through the 60s and 70s of spraying what they considered harmless spores and viruses into the air for different reasons. in regards to chemtrails today, I wouldn't say that there's any damning evidence, but when you look at the past, and I'm a pretty big advocate for this, is if you want to know what's going on now, just look at the past, and that'll essentially confirm it for you, where, you start to see these things, granted they're 30, 40 years ago, but the projects that they were doing are identical to what the chemtrails are alleging. So if you want to buy into the theory, well, there's nothing really damning to show in regards to documents that say, yes, they're spraying something above our heads, but our history and the declassified documents from 30, 40 years ago show that they were doing just that, and they were secret and top secret projects at the time. So generally, we're about 30, 40 years behind what the government wants us to know of what they're doing. The B-2 stealth bomber was a prime example of that. I mean, they were flying a prototype of this thing decades before we ever were even given the acknowledgement that it existed. So we're about 30, 40 years behind. So even though we don't have that admission today, I think it's very plausible that they are doing, and I think the most plausible scenario is a war games type operation where you have two teams. You've got one team spraying something in the air. You've got another team trying to figure out what it is. And the reason is, as you look at the day and age we live in, terrorism is a huge threat. Biological warfare is a gigantic threat. And if they spray something in our atmosphere, we got to figure out what it is. So is this something that they're, I've heard everything from mind control to, they're making us sick intentionally, they're, fill in the conspiracy. I just think it's more plausible that they are training for a scenario like this, that if ISIS somehow gets, a biological agent that they can spray over Los Angeles, how would we fight it? How would we figure it out? We got to figure out what it is first. Second, we got to figure out what we're going to do with the population. And third, we got to treat it. And so you can't do that in the middle of nowhere. You can't train for that in the middle of nowhere. You got to do it over a populated area. So that to me is a very plausible scenario, and I would definitely think that they're doing something like that. And history shows us that they've done the exact same thing in the past.
When you were busting out FOIA documents on secret aircraft and other stuff, what did you do when you found out that Skunk Works was right there at Burbank Airport? I mean, did that just freak you out? Because I know it freaked me out.
Yeah, it's not too surprising. I grew up. My father had worked for a NASA subcontractor. He was Rocketdyne at the time, which later became Boeing and Pratt & Whitney, but he worked on the space shuttle. And it's amazing to know, just there, for those who aren't in Southern California, where the space shuttle and the space shuttle main engines are made is like right in the middle of this residential area. So for me personally, just kind of seeing that and growing up with that, it wasn't too surprising for me to see these, sensitive installations. Even though the space shuttle is not top secret, there's a lot of, protected secrets in relation to it. And so it's amazing to just be driving down the street and you look over and that's the factory where they're making the space shuttle engines, and then you can go to Burger King right across the street. So it wasn't too surprising for me personally, but yeah, these things are in the corners that you would never expect. And with the government, hide it in plain sight, I think is something that really rings true and has ring true for a long time, that if they want to cover something up, you just hide it in plain sight. And I think that that's true even with the Freedom of Information Act. If they want to hide something, ultimately they can. But a lot of times I think that they will release some of these secrets in a big pile of useless stuff. And so they'll give you 10,000 pages on something, but really ultimately 5 of them are valuable and it's tucked in the middle of everything. So you really got to kind of go through it. And again, it's just that term, hide it in plain sight. So not too surprising for me.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because I was reading, Ben Rich's book, Skunk Works, right? And this is in the mid-'90s. And I'm sitting at the Southwest Terminal waiting for a plane at Burbank Airport. And I'm flipping through the pictures, and I see, he's got this picture of Skunk Works with the SR-71. And I was like, wait a minute. And I pull the book down, and I'm looking out the window, at Skunk Works, right across the runway, right across the runway. And I'm looking back at the picture. I'm like, holy crap. They did this in the middle of a neighborhood, right in the middle of Leave It to Beaver neighborhood of Burbank. The SR-71's being built. You're absolutely right. Hide it in plain sight, and nobody knew. It was pretty cool. Yeah. And then they tore it down about a year later, and it's no longer there. But I actually saw it. Hey, listen, John, thank you so much. Great show tonight. Thank you for all that you do. What's next on your agenda right now? What are you working on?
Well, I'm working on a History Channel new series. I'd hate to be mysterious about it. I wish I could tell you what it's about. I actually can't, but it is slated to air later this year. Once I know that it is announced and once I have an air date, I'll definitely be posting that on theblackvault.com. But definitely it will be something up your alley, so I'm really excited about that. Doing a couple lectures. I'll be at the Contact in the Desert, which I believe you're going to be at. So I've got a couple lectures coming up as well, and so and that's it. I mean, I'm kind of adding stuff every day now on the Black Vault, so definitely subscribe to either the Facebook feed is kind of the most popular way to keep up to date on what I'm posting. I've also got an app for the Black Vault, so if you've got a Droid or an iPhone, I've got an app that you can download, and that will give you direct access to all the documents, all 1.5 million pages, all the news headlines, all the case files, so you'll be able to see that on the app, and that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, John. We'll see you out there at Joshua Tree in 2 short months. And thank you for all that you do, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you so much. John Greenewald, The Black Vault, theblackvault.com. And he will be at Contact in the Desert along with, myself and George Noory is going to be out there. And do go to contactinthedesert.com and theblackvault.com. Thank you, John, so much. 3 years to get John on the show, and it was worth every minute of the wait. Thank you so much, John. Theblackvault.com. Now, really quick, before I let everybody go tonight, there's a couple of things that I've got to get out there. You ready? Check this out. 5 lead tablets that cursed tavern keepers 2,400 years ago have been discovered in a young woman's grave in Athens, Greece. 4 of the tablets, which were engraved with curses, right? Spells that invoke the names of underworld gods, asking them to target 4 different husband and wife tavern keepers in Athens, have been unearthed. The 5th tablet was blank and likely had a spell or incantation recited orally. The words were spoken over it. All of the tablets were pierced with an iron nail, and the tablets were folded and deposited in the grave. The grave would have provided the tablets a path to such gods, who would then do the curse's biddings. And this is according to ancient beliefs. Go to our Facebook page, Jimmy Church Radio. Click on it right there. You can look at the pictures. It's absolutely incredible. A cyber attack by a Turkish hacker group has interrupted operations of a number of Armenian government websites, including defense, energy, agriculture ministries, as well as other state agencies, causing prolonged inoperability. The hacker group Aslan Neferler Tim, which translates into the Lion Privates Team, claimed responsibility for the attack on its social media accounts and claims that they will continue. Also, I chose not to report on this tonight. We're going to do this tomorrow night. There's a war going on right now between Armenia and Azerbaijan that isn't reported in the mass media. And I don't know why. You can go out there and find it if you look for it. But as far as the United States goes and the BBC and other mainstream Western outlets, they are choosing not to report on what is going on. It's been going on now for about a week, and it's pretty incredible. and I will be going in depth with this tomorrow night. All right? More on that tomorrow. Just after midnight on January 14th, 2016, I meant to ask John about this earlier tonight, and it escaped me. An airline pilot's UFO encounter was overheard by a ham radio operator. Now, this is according to UFOs Northwest and MUFON. The ham radio operator was scanning the airwaves for communications between aircraft and the FAA. What the ham radio operator picked up was, in fact, the airline pilot asking the traffic controllers if he'd picked up anything on their radar. The pilot went on to tell the air traffic controller that he and his crew had been observing a perfectly square, bright orange light, approximately a mile wide, keeping pace with the plane. Now, I want to repeat really quick. A bright orange light. It was square, and it was approximately a mile wide, keeping pace with the plane. The object had been there for quite a while and was located to the right of the plane. The pilot asked what township was to his right, and the controller replied, it was Nephi, Utah. That's Nephi, Utah. Now, MUFON wants to hear from you. If you were in or around Nephi, Utah, just after midnight on January 14th, you were looking to the skies, you saw anything unusual, pick up the phone, write an email to MUFON. It's an interesting story. Now, through Freedom of Information Act request, MUFON was able to get the radar data and some other documents concerning this night, and all of the information about the communication, the transcriptions, the recordings, and the radar data, all of it was deleted. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The ham operator forgot to run a recording. It popped up, and it came up and caught him by surprise. So he didn't get it recorded. They requested the documents, and then everything relating to this incident is not there. So if you were in or around Nephi, Utah, on that evening, January 14th, just after midnight, contact MUFON. All right. After conducting its fourth test this year, reports are now saying North Korea can now put a nuclear warhead on its mid-range missiles. The Rodong missile can fire a 1-ton warhead a distance up to 1,250 miles. This would put all of South of Korea, most of Japan, parts of Russia, and China in range. An entire village, including a 21-bedroom mansion, 43 houses, and a pub, is up for sale near Scarborough in the UK for £20 million. What is that in dollars? The last owner of the West Hesterland died, leaving no heir, and the estate is now up for grabs for the same price as a large family home in London's Knightsbridge. Potential lords and ladies of the manor, you know what else you get for your £20 million? You get a gas station, as well as 2,000 acres of farmland. 43 houses and your own bar and your own gas station, 2,000 acres. There you go. £20 million. That's a lot of ducks quacking in the pond. Nicknamed the Gremlins Program, an audacious U.S. government-backed plan to use swarms of drones to disrupt enemy missile defense systems is now under development. 4 firms, 1, 2, 3, 4, including jet manufacturer Lockheed Martin, have been brought on board by the Pentagon Security Agency, DARPA, to turn the idea of a low-cost, reusable decoy capable of jamming enemy radar. DARPA are hoping to take that disruptive spirit and apply it to a series of probes designed to minimize the risk to U.S. fighter pilots while maximizing enemy costs during combat missions. Gremlins. Along with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the U.S. president will be in Germany to open Hannover Messe, the world's largest trade show for industrial technology, at a ceremony on the evening of the 24th of April at Hanover Congress Centrum. However, people in Germany have been warned to stay away from their windows and to refrain from waving as the two heads of state enter and leave the venue, because it's going to put you at the risk of a police check. That's right, facial recognition. A tourist has reportedly photographed a mysterious and weird-looking UFO flying close to the Empire State Building in New York. Now, according to the witness, in a report filed as case number 75586 in the MUFON archives, he was visiting New York from the UK with his girlfriend when he noticed the alleged UFO flying in the sky near the Empire State Building. Now, as this is not the first time that a UFO has been spotted flying past the Empire State Building in New York, UFO hunters have reported several sightings since the 1960s. What you need to do is go to our Facebook page, click on the article, and look at the picture. This was taken with Samsung Galaxy S6, and I got to tell you, that's one of the craziest UFO pictures like ever. Thank you to George Noory. Thank you to John Greenewald, the Black Vault. Great show tonight. Thank you so much. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Go Backley Tappy.